Good. Welcome everybody to our inaugural webinar presented by Lake St. Louis Squadron District. My name is Alfred Weppert. I'm the Public Relations Officer of the district. We will hold all questions to the presenter till the end of the presentation. Then we'll do a Q&A session. That applies also in the room as well as those online who are able to hear us and want to use the chat feature to ask specific questions to the presenter at the end. So without further ado, it's my privilege to introduce a presenter, Mr. Richard Lariviére, who's a member and officer of the West Island Squadron. He's also a CPS Board of Director and an avid sailor who took on the challenge of solo sailing the Atlantic in 2022. So as he would discover, not all goes to plan. Richard?
Thank you. Thank you for coming here. It's an honor. Tonight you won't see a lot of nice pictures of beaches or nice clear water or nice... A lot of people do that and they do it very well, better than I can. But today what I want to talk about is what went wrong in my attempt to cross the Atlantic and what my plan happened to become along the way and how I had to resolve the issues that I was facing. So. And also I want to mention that most of the issues that I had to deal with could have been prevented if I had taken the time to address them before I leave. So, okay, so it's not all pure bad luck, it's a lot of negligence on my part. And it's not because I don't know, I know, it's just that I didn't do it, you know. So let's start. So just a little bit of background information. My boat is an old Tartan 34 1970 that I have purchased in 2005. And since then I did a lot of upgrades and improvements. Basically today it's an old hull, but the rest is all upgraded, has been upgraded over the years. I did a transatlantic trip in 2012-13. I took a 1-year sabbatical to do this trip. Now, what I wanted to do once I retired was to redo this trip, but solo, this time by myself. I did some other trips to les Îles de la Madeleine also in 2016-18. And in 2021, I did not do any sailing because my boat was stored at a Lake Champlain marina. And because it is in the US, I did not have access to my boat. We could not cross the border back in 2020, 2021, other than by plane. So these two years I didn't do much on the boat and anything else. So the original plan that I was going to do in 2022 was to leave from Montreal here and go down to New York City and cross over to Horta in the Azores, and then Madeira, and then the Canaries, and then Cape Verde, and then crossing again all the way to the Caribbean. And my favorite spot is Martinique in the Caribbean. And after that is to come back home the year after. So that was a 2-year plan. So my actual trip is not exactly what has happened. So I left Montreal, I went down to New York City, I took the ocean, and then I had an issue that I will be talking about, and then I went back to Halifax, and I did the East Coast, and then the Caribbean. That's what I will talk about during my presentation. So in 2019, in the summer of 2019, I discovered that there was a leak in my fuel tank in my boat. And it was summertime, and there was no way I could get a new tank or the tank repaired in the summer of 2019. So I did remove the tank during the fall of 2019 to get it fixed, so to be ready for 2020. Because my goal was to leave in 2021, but take the summer of 2020, to test all my new stuff that I was going to put on the boat. I wanted to use the summer of 2020 as my test period. But in 2020, I could not go to the boat to do any work. So the tank stayed at home for that year. But during that time, I bought the new rigging for all the standing rigging for my boat. I had bought it in advance. I bought all the rigging with one end terminated with swage fittings, and the other end was not terminated, using what's called stay-lock fittings that you could install by yourself. So I bought it in 2020, hoping that I was able to go to the boat in the summer 2020, but that again, because of COVID, it was postponed to the year after. But in 2021, what I did is I took the plane from St-Georges and I flew to Plattsburgh, New York. It's a 15-minute flight. And I took a cab to the marina. They launched my boat, and then I came back in Quebec via the Richelieu River. And I had to quarantine for 15 days. But at least my boat was in Quebec and was back home, so I was able to work on it. So I repaired the tank. Because the fuel was leaking on the floor was all turned bad, so I had to replace the whole floor. And while I was doing that, the water tank started to leak again. So I had to do all this in 2021 before leaving. So before departure in 2022, I had to unstep the mast on Lake Champlain to go down the river to go to New York City. And I did not find anybody in St. Paul or anywhere on my way to Hudson River to help me replacing the standing rigging, especially the furler. The furler is very special to replace. You need knowledge that I don't have to replace the stay for the forestay. So I left with my old rigging. So I left with my old rigging. I installed also on the boat a spinnaker pole track on the mast to hold the pole, because when you do ocean sailing, you need to pull out the genoa. So I needed to have a system where I can pull the spinnaker pole all by myself. It's all to make sure that I can do it by myself. I installed a bimini, and then I did my provisions. I bought a new dinghy, a high-field dinghy. I bought a life raft, EPIRBs, a satellite communication system in reach. So I did a lot of work pre-departure. One thing also that the survey found in 2021, when I was doing the survey before leaving, he said that my rudder was full of water, and he would not insure my boat if I was not going to repair or replace my rudder. So that's what I did. So in 21, I had to redo the whole rudder system. More improvements. I replaced all the batteries with lithium batteries. This has been a huge improvement on the boat. It gives you a lot more autonomy, and you can do a lot more things when you have lithium batteries. I installed 3 new solar panels. I installed a new charger, a new inverter, and I installed a bimini. Also, I had no bimini before, and when you are under the sun 12 hours a day, you get cooked, so you need to have some sun protection. So the 3rd of June, I left St. Paul, and I left on June 3rd. I was supposed to leave earlier than that, but the guy who made the bimini, he was always telling me, oh yeah, tomorrow is going to be ready. Tomorrow will be ready. So it took me every week for 2-3 weeks to go to his place. I need my bimini, I need to leave. So I delayed from the May 21st. It took me all the way to June 3rd to leave because my bimini was not ready because of this guy. And I had given the contract in December the year before, plus the money. So June 3rd was my departure from St. Paul. So this is my boat. You see, it's an old boat. It's all prepared to go. Leaving St. Paul. Now, I'm on my way. 2 hours after departure, it's just 2 hours, I smell, there's a strong smell of fuel burning coming out of the boat. So I checked, and I found out that the fuel filter on the engine, the fuel filter on the engine is the secondary fuel filter. There's a primary, but there's a secondary. This had been rusted and leaking. I guess the fact that the engine was sitting in the yard for almost 3 years, the rust in the fuel filter made it leak inside. So it was a very stressful moment, because at that moment I was in front of the U.S. border. I was just under the bridge at Rouse's Point to cross and meet with the guy, and my boat goes, So I was very stressed out at that point. If I had changed the filter before I left, it would not have happened. Okay, number one. Okay, so I'm entering the U.S. You use an application on your app phone nowadays. It's called CBP Roam. You use this application and you enter into the state. Very easy, especially if you have your Nexus card. If you have your Nexus, it's like pre-approved. It goes easy. And then when you go for a year or more, you have to ask for a cruising permit. You don't need a cruising permit if you sail on the Lake Champlain area, but if you go farther south, you need a cruising permit. So you ask for the permit at the same time, you get it, it's easy. 4 hours after departure, the primary filter leak. Because what I failed to mention is when I replaced the secondary filter, I said I might as well change the primary, it will be done. So I changed the primary filter. This is the one, the primary filter. But when I removed the filter, there was the gasket stayed, some pieces of the old gasket stayed on the housing. When I screwed in the new filter, it was leaking there. So it took me a long time to realize, well, two more hours of driving time, and all that fuel went into the bilge. And I could hear the bilge pump pumping fuel into Lake Champlain. If ever the Coast Guard had been passing by me, it was like a $5,000 or $10,000 fine for throwing diesel into the ocean, into the water. So when you go from Lake Champlain to New York, you have to go through a locking system. It's called the canal system, lock system. So you have to go all of this. It takes about 2-3 days, depending how fast you go. And to do this trip, I had a friend of mine who came with me to do those locks, because alone, a person alone doing the locks is not easy. It's very difficult. So you end up on the Hudson River. Then I arrive at Catskill in New York, which is the marina where you remast. And prior to leaving, I checked where I was going to go. Last time I went to a different marina, which was called Hopono's Marina, and they are very good. But they did not offer services to replace my rigging. But Riverview Marina, on their website, it's written full service, rigging, replacement, the whole shebang. So I said, that's my chance. I'm going to go to Riverview and I'll have my standing rigging replaced. So I arrived there, nobody can do it. He says, with the COVID, we lost all our technicians, our people, so I could not get my standing rigging replaced. So I took the decision to replace my rigging in Horta, in the Azores, once I would be there, because a friend of mine lives in Horta, and who has a boat like mine, and he told me over the phone, we have plenty of people to do that here. Come over here, we'll do it for you, and that should be fine. But when we restepped the mast, before we restepped the mast, I had cleaned the base very clean. Because when you remove the mast, there's all dirt that comes down, so I cleaned the mast step very well. But when I put the mast back on its plate, I forgot exactly which position it was. Was it a bit forward, a bit backward? I did not know exactly, I didn't recall exactly where it fit. And because the mast goes through the roof, it has to be centered around the roof. But I didn't look at it very well, so I said I just reinstalled everything, and then I left. I installed the sails and everything. Then I went down the Hudson River like that. So by June 12, I was in New York City. I went by the Statue of Liberty. I slept at anchor behind the statue. I did some testing. Everything was fine. So I was almost ready. On June 14, I go to a marina called Atlantic Highland. Atlantic Highland Marina is here. Atlantic Highland Marina. And this point here is a sandy point. It's called Sandy Hook. So you have to go around the hook before you take on the ocean. So on June 14, I filled up the fuel tank, water tank, made provision for 30 days. And then I departed Sandy Hook towards the Azores. Second day of real sailing. Before that, before June 15, I was motoring all the time. But on the 15th of June, that was my first real sailing day with the sails up. So the boat was heeling on starboard side. That means that the fuel tank was up in the air. Okay, the tank is on the port side. And then I started to notice diesel fuel on the floor again. Oh no, do I still have fuel and a fuel leak? So it happened that when I had the fuel tank repaired, I had made inspection ports. These two things here are inspection ports, so that you can open up and see inside to clean your tank. So what happened is one of the screw, that screw here was leaking because the fuel tank was full, and it was leaking. So I've been able to. I had to remove the settee. The settee covers the tank. Remove everything, the cushions and everything, and disassemble the port settee and find the leak. Put Sikaflex around the nut and some towels. And after a few hours, I realized that the leak is okay. I'm done. So I was happy that the job was done. But it was my first day of sailing. I didn't have my sea leg yet. And when you work inside the boat and the boat goes like this, and your head down, you get seasick easily the first day. So that day, and that was the only day I was seasick, it happened then. The next day, I want to start the engine. The engine doesn't start. But I knew that I had that problem before. So I had bought, prior to leaving, I bought a spare starter. Before I left, I bought a spare alternator and a spare starter. So don't tell me again, this is the starter. But I knew that if I use a hammer, I knock on the starter and it works. So I tried that, did not work. But because the boat was moving, I happened to touch the starting relay, which is mounted just beside the starter, that little box about this big. That was the problem. The relay was faulty. So thankfully, I had the spare. So I replaced my little relay, and everything was fine. But if I had not had the spare, I don't know how I would have used my engine afterwards. Then after that, because I repaired my rudder, I had to remove everything on the rudder, and also the steering system, which includes the quadrant. The quadrant is what makes the rudder shaft turn with the cables that goes around the quadrant. That's what makes the rudder turn. But when I fixed it at home, the winter prior, I cleaned everything here. I cleaned the quadrant. I made it all clean because it was dirty. I made it clean. But what I found out a few days after was that it was loose. The shaft and the quadrant, there was something loose. And what happened is that the autopilot wants to go this way, so it gives the signal to turn, but because of the quadrant was loose, it does not react automatically. So the pilot will overreact. So the boat goes like this because of the slack in here. So I was able to put a shim using a can of food. I don't know which can. I took my scissors and I cut a piece of the can, put it against the rudder and the quadrant, fixed it. Everything was fine. And that was at 2 o'clock in the morning, so I went to bed, everything was fine.
Sorry. We'll try that.
Okay. So that's June 18. June 20, one of the things I had bought before is a new inverter. An inverter takes you 12 volts from the battery, produces 120 volts. So with that inverter, I can run my microwave, I can run my toaster, I can recharge my computer batteries and everything. And that inverter has a remote button. So you can install the inverter in the battery box and you operate it with the remote. But on the 20th of June, it did not work, and found out that the remote switch, it's all corroded because of the air, the salt in the air. So I had to find a switch and replace that switch to make it work. At the same time, it had been raining a lot since I had departed, and the companionway, the door, was leaking. There was a leak somewhere, so I had to find the leak. So eventually, I found a leak, and I fixed it. I found one, and I fixed it. The next day, I used to look at my weather forecast every day. I downloaded all my weather forecasts using my ham radio system every day. And I could see on the 21st that the day after, there is going to be a lot of strong winds, and for a few days. So I decided to take down my foresail, which is a Yankee. It's not a Genoa, it's a bit smaller, it's a Yankee, and replace it with my storm jib. So I did that on the June 21st. But when I was raising the jib by myself, you have to insert the jib into the track. At the same time, you have to pull the halyard from the mast, and with the exercise, so I hurt my shoulder, and I had a lot of difficulty afterwards to raise my arm like this. It took me a year to get back to normal. That all happened because I was trying to raise the jib all by myself. Then on June 22nd, I was inspecting my rig in the morning. I found that there was a cutter ring missing on one of the stay pins. The pins that keeps the stays on the turnbuckle, one of them on the port side, there was missing a cutter ring. A ring, not a cutter pin, but a cutter ring. So basically the stay was staying just because of the tension on the pin. But if there had been vibration, or if I had been sailing on the other side, the stay would have come loose and I would have lost my pin, and that would have been a terrible thing if I had lost that. So that the strong wind and waves did arrive in the morning, so I took 3 reef in the mainsail, and then I decided to heave to until the conditions improved. So that's the best thing to do. There's no need to fight the huge wave. Just heave to and go to sleep. So at the end of the day, I decided to resume sailing. I said, maybe it looks better. Maybe I should go. So I decided. And then at 17:53, at 5 o'clock, at almost 6 o'clock, the backstay broke at the top of the mast. So right at the top of the mast, the backstay, I knew that my rigging was old. I knew I had my new rigging inside the boat. It's not that I did not know. I knew about it. But finally it did break. At the top of the mast, the ring where the pin goes, the ring broke loose. Some people would think that the swage would go free, but there was not the swage, it was the ring. And what I realized after that, why is it that it broke there, is because the mast was shaking, because the base was not at the right place at the beginning. I should have taken the time to move the mast at its proper location, because it's as if the mast was sitting on an edge, instead of being flat on the plate. It was like sitting on an edge and was vibrating, and that for that reason, the mast collar at the roof was leaking all the time, because it was not at the right place. So you see, there's some bad luck to that, but there's also negligence on my part. If I had replaced the rigging and had put the mast in the right place, most probably that would not have happened. So before I left, I had put into my mast a spare halyard line, a line that goes from behind the mast, that goes on top and comes back on the front of the mast. So I said that line, that halyard, can be used as a spare halyard for the foresail or for the mainsail. It can be used for either. So as soon as I heard the noise and I looked up and I saw the backstay was gone, I immediately went to the mast, and I picked up my 2 lines and I brought them back to the backstay turnbuckle. The turnbuckle was still there, and I wrapped it again and tied it. And using my winch handle, I twisted the line as much as I could and fixed it there to have some kind of a backstay. At that time, just before that, I furled the storm jib, but because it was a small sail, it furled very, very quickly, easily. And then my mainsail was already on the 3rd reef, so that means that the top of the sail is at the spreader, where the lower stays attached to. So that was safe. But once that was done, I was a bit relaxed, because during that period of time, I was stressed out. I saw so many stories about masts going down. Not to me, it cannot happen. But luckily, my mast stayed up. So my initial thought was, okay, I'm going to continue towards the Azores, which was 1,400 miles. But I realized quickly that with a small main, 3 reef on the main, and no foresail, there's no way I would make it in 30 days. No, it would have taken me 2 months to get there, because it's too slow. So I changed my mind. I decided to turn around. So I look on my chart plotter. I put a waypoint, New York City. It says 700 miles. And then I made a waypoint to Halifax, 414 miles. And the wind was pushing me towards Halifax. So I decided to head to Halifax. Then again, it's not the end of the storm. There was still some strong wind. And the next day, the autopilot drive fails. The drive is the motor that turns the wheel. So I had to replace it. And then again, I decided to heave to and let the storm pass. At that time, there was still 374 nautical miles to Halifax. And there was water coming in from the mast deck opening, as I was mentioning before, because of the rain and the waves passing on top of the boat. There was still water coming inside the boat. On June 24, I look at my battery panel. The batteries are very low. So why is that? So I checked. The solar panels are not feeding any electricity to the batteries. So I did some check, and I found out that the junction box where all the wires for the panels are outside, the wires were all corroded. It's all green. All the copper wires were disappeared. So I had to redo the connection, and I applied Secaflex to seal the junction box, and then everything was fine. That same day, I said to myself, where am I going to go in Halifax? I've never been to Halifax. But I knew one person in Halifax, and because of CPS. Her name is Sarah Jane Rain. If you can hear me, Sarah, this is for you, if she's on the line. So I emailed her via my ham radio system, and she responded to me quickly with places to go for repair and for moorings. On the 25th of June, there was still again more strong winds and big waves, and then the pilot had a lot of difficulty to steer the boat. So I decided to start the engine and at low RPM to give a better chance for the pilot to work, because when the water through the rudder, if the water is too slow, the rudder is not very effective. So you have to go fast in the water for the rudder to be effective. And when you are in big waves, you need action. You need the thing to react quickly. So I said to myself, I have enough fuel to reach my destination if I keep the engine running under 15 RPM. The next day, the pilot drive unit fails again. That was my first spare, so I installed my second spare. So basically, when I left, I had 3 units, 1 on the wheel and 2 in boxes, waiting in case. So I used them, the 2 of them, I used them up. But in the meantime, I repaired the 2 drives by replacing the gearbox. There are plastic gears inside these things, and I had the spare, so I replaced it. And why did they break? It's because when I was heaving to, I was locking the wheel with the knob. I locked the wheel so that the boat can stay in the heeling to position. But I forgot to unlock the wheel. So the drive was working against the lock plus against the rudder. So that's why it broke the gearboxes, because I failed to remove the brake on the wheel. So that day at 11:30, I made it to the Halifax Harbour at Nova Scotia Yacht Squadron in the Northwest Arm. That's a bay in Halifax, and that's calm. Everything is very nice place to go there. And then I talked to Sarah Jane, and we met, and we talked about how we will do things. But that Marina Yacht Club that I was at, the Royal Nova Scotia Yacht Club, is a full-service yacht club, but it was June 30. And July 1st was like the next day, and they were booked up for 3 weeks in advance. And they were charging like $3,000 to replace my back stay. So I said, that's not a solution. $3,000 is not a solution. So I relocated to Armsdale Yacht Club. That's where Sarah Jane is a member and has her boat. So she got me there to the Armsdale Yacht Club, and they have at that yacht club they have a crane where you do your own service, and you bring your tool, everything, and with friends you can do your own mast removal or working on your mast. So that's where I did replace the backstay, and I did it myself. Well, with the help of other people. So for the rest of the month of July, I replaced the backstay, and then I took the time to move the mast an inch forward from the base, move it 1 inch so that it fits well in the mast, in the roof hole there, and it could sit very well. And I redid the seal at the mast boot, and then since that day, no issues. So then I decided to test, to do a trial before I made any decision to go everywhere else. So I decided to go to Brador Lake. Have you heard of Brador Lake, north of Nova Scotia? Took me a week and or so to get there and back. Very nice, very nice. The Brador Lake is, to me, is like the Champlain Lake. It's very, very similar. It's very nice. And then I decided to abandon my original plan to go to the Azores because it was too late in the season. And I decided to go down the east coast of the U.S. to reach the Caribbean instead of going the big loop like my plan was. So after I was in Halifax, I went by Lunenburg because of this guy. So when I was in Lunenburg, I could not go to see the blue nose. So it's impressive to walk on the boat. It's impressive to see it, and I saw it also on the sail. It's impressive. It's a very impressive boat. No, okay, sorry. And then in August, I decided to leave Nova Scotia to go to Boston. To go to Nova Scotia, to go to Boston. So it took me 3 days or 4 days to go from Shelburne, Nova Scotia, and all the way down to, I decided to stop in Cape Cod. I thought that I could clear custom into the U.S. in Cape Cod. I had heard that, but I realized that no, you cannot clear custom in Cape Cod. Either you go to Boston or Newport, Rhode Island. So after a day on the phone with the guys on the U.S. Agents, one says, "Do you have an Exodus card?" "Yes, I do have an Exodus card." "Okay, with an Exodus card, you don't have to come to the office. We can do it online." Thank you very much. My problems were resolved because I had my Nexus card. So I went down to Cape Cod, and then I with my old autopilot drive, the electrical motor started to play games. So I went by a store and I bought an electrical motor and I replaced it while I was in the Long Island Sound area. So I went back to New York City via the East River. So I did. I left. I did the East River to New York City here. And then in September, I went from New York City to Cape May. From New York City to Cape May in 1 day, to the top of the Delaware Bay in 1 day, and then the next day to Annapolis, and then I spent quite many days here in the Chesapeake area. So I visited Annapolis and the surrounding, and my boat being a Tartan 34 Classic, we have an association, and we have rendezvous every year. And last year was in the Solomon in the Chesapeake Bay. So I took the advantage of going there to the marina, and then while I was there, I had worked onto my rigging. So when I was there, so I hired a professional rigger to replace the head stay in the furler and all the other stays. And I said they are professional, they know what they should do, but they cut the head stay too short. So I had by 2 inches. So I had to put all my turnbuckles and the furler turnbuckle to the limit. They are at the limit of what they can take because they cut it too short by 2 inches. And they charged me $1,550 US for 6 hours of work. Ouch. But at least the rigging is new. I'm happy. I should not have any more issues. After that, I decided to come back home for the whole month of October. So I went to Norfolk in a marina called Little Creek Marina. I said I will store my boat there for the whole month. I'm coming back home. I should be fine. The reason why I did that is because you cannot leave Quebec more than 6 months a year without losing your insurance, medical insurance. So because I left on June 3rd, I had to come back a month to be within my 183 days. So I leave the boat at Little Creek Marina on the September 30th, and it was very windy that day. But thankfully, on my departure date, on October 1st, it was dead calm, and then I could fly home. But inside the boat, I was monitoring the wind. It was 35 knots. Inside the marina, the boat was heeling like this because the wind was coming in the marina, 35 knots in the marina. At that time, it was Hurricane Ian who was passing by. So I thought that leaving my boat in the marina would be safe, but it was not safe. Before I left, I contacted the people around me. We exchanged cards. When you're a cruiser, you exchange cards. So a guy gave me his card. So he calls me on the 18th, telling me that there had been a boat fire at the Little Creek Marina. 3 boats were destroyed, and mine was saved. But look, this is the marina, the tip of the land. This is the pier I was at. This boat started the fire and lighted this boat turned fire. This burn was fired too, and all 3 sank. But there was an empty slip here, and my boat was here. So when I came back on November 1st, I said, I saw the guy who had his boat here. I saw him. He says, what has happened? Why were you not there during the night? He says, because I went out sailing and there was water in my fuel tank. I could not get to my dock by an engine. I had to be pulled at the dock. So he was there at the dock. Where is my mouse? He was at the dock, the fuel dock, because on his own power, he was not able to get to his slip. If he had been there, he would have got fire, and I would got fire.
Casey Baylor joins us live from the scene. Casey, you have been there since about 4 this morning. What new information have we learned?
Why is it that?
Well, Bethany, a Norfolk fire official says 9 adults, 1 child, and 2 dogs
that's
are
the
displaced following
news,
this fire.
video that
Now,
went on the
rather
news.
than these boats floating on the water, they're actually under it. And several people I spoke to say they ran from the dock and tried to take for cover from that early morning
what
fire.
Has happened, and then as she turns out, okay, so see, my boat was here. Yeah. So that the 3 boats sank. They are in the water. So I don't need to go back to explain that further, but it was. So you see some pictures afterwards. The dock are burned, and there is fuel and they told me that there was one fireman who kept watering my boat all the time, and that saved my boat. Except the top of the mast, the Windex is burned, the light is burned, but the radar is still working. Was dark, the radar was all black, and the mast was all black, but was still working. And there was no water inside the boat. Thank you. There was no water, because by spraying water on the boat all the time, I would have imagined that some leaks again. But thankfully, no, there was no issue there. So I came back to the boat in November, and I cleaned the boat for 2-3 days, and then I took the ICW all the way down to Beaufort. So that's about 300 nautical miles to Beaufort. And my goal was to leave from Beaufort direct to St. Martin, go on the ocean. I did not want to do the intracoastal all the way to Miami and then doing the Bahamas, Puerto Rico, and what's called the Thorny Path. Because when you go that way, you have the wind and the current against you all the way. So by looping like this, it's doable, but you have to wait in November to do this. You cannot do it earlier than November because of the hurricane season. And if you wait too late in December, then there are strong gales from the north. So the window is very small. It's in November. So, and why leaving from Beaufort? Because if you have a one-day forecast, you know that it takes you 1 day to cross the Gulf Stream to be here at point number 3. It takes 1 day to get there. So if you have a good weather window, you can cross the Gulf Stream, and once you are on the other side, you're good to go. So that's the reason why people leave from Beaufort. So you wait for a northwest wind, a wind coming from the northwest, and then once the wind is established, and you leave from high tide in Beaufort to make sure that you have the current with you to push you out of the area, and then you clear the shoals and the Gulf Stream, and then from there you head to a point. It's called the 25 North, 65 West point. It's an imaginary point. You head this way, and then when you reach it, then you go south to St. Martin. You go like this. So on the 16th of November, I left Beaufort in the rain. And I have a Remarine plotter, chart plotter outside, which is a touch screen. No buttons. The one I have has no buttons. It's only a screen. But it was raining. So what happened when it rains on the screen? It freezes. The display doesn't work anymore. You have to wipe it clean, make sure that the screen works. So the screen was frozen as if I was in Beaufort Harbor, but I was going out at night at 3 o'clock in the morning. I could not see where the buoys were and everything, and I had a hard time because my thing was frozen. It took me some time to realize it. But if you have dolphins the first day, that's supposed to be a good luck. Huh? Supposed to be. Supposed to be. So I had some good luck. After all. And if you have a visitor from the sky, that's supposed to be also good luck. So this bird was with me until the next morning. And the next morning I woke up, he was gone. Before I left, I said to my wife, I should buy a hockey helmet to put on my head in case I get hit by the boom when I jibe. I should have bought a helmet and wear, because there was on that day there was an accidental jibe. I got hit very hard. I did not lose conscience, but it hurt a lot. It hurted a lot.
At least it wasn't leaking.
Yeah. On the 21st of November, there again the wind increased a lot, and I had to put three reef in the main. I was heaving to, and the waves were breaking on top of the boat. I says, what the hell I'm going to do? It was impossible. Then something came in my mind, like not a vision, but like an idea. It says, take out the sails, remove all the sails. So I furled the jib, and I turned down the main, and I was heaving to, just bare pole. Everything was fine. Then I was able to sleep again. Just to see how much wind there was, and the waves, the waves breaking on the boat. That's the worst. So then I decided to resume sailing the day after with just 1/8 of the head sail, just tiny pieces of head sail, and then I was going. But there was still water coming in from the companionway, and the problem is, if you know where the leak is from the inside, you don't know from where it's coming from the outside, because the water drips along and drips exactly on your head where you sleep. No? Cling, cling. So, but there's no hole. It's impossible. So it has to come from somewhere there. You know? So the only way was the companion. So there was another leak that I found after that. And the same day I found out there's a lot of water in the bilge. Why is that? And so I hear the pump start, stop, start, stop, stop, stop. So I realized after that the pump has a hose with a siphon loop before the water goes out. So normally, when the pump has done its job, the siphon loop should open to let the air come in to empty the hose. But the siphon loop was clogged. The rubber valve was clogged of diesel. The diesel that was in my bilge the day I left Saint-Paul. That's the diesel that the pump was pumping out the diesel on the lake, into the lake. That's the diesel that melted the siphon loop rubber valve. Are you seeing the interconnection between what I should have done and what the problem it caused, the relation? December 1st, I arrived in Saint-Martin after 14 days about. Everything was nice. No issue there. So basically, my plan was to arrive Saint-Martin in December and go all the way down to Grenada in June. My boat presently is in Grenada, is hauled out in Grenada. So I visited those places there. These are the places I have visited along the way. Christmas came, and my wife came to meet me in Guadeloupe by plane. But because she had the luggage and so on and so forth, I went to the marina, which is called Marina du Fort Pointe-à-Pitre. Says, I'd like to have a slip so that when my wife comes, when we carry the luggage and everything, we have to go to the store. It's easy. And after that, I'll move to a mooring bar because it's more private. Because at Christmas time at the marina, it's very busy. So she arrives on December 24th. Everything is okay. On the 26th, then I'm told to relocate to the mooring field on the other side of the channel. In doing so, I ran aground on an unidentified reef. Well, so here is the marina where I was. So I go here, and I go to the mooring field over here. So it's only 500 meters. I can see where I'm going. It's just that I can see the ball. There's no need to turn on my chart plotter. There's no need. I can see the ball. It's just there. So I didn't turn on my chart plotter, but I should, because it was indicated on the screen where there was a reef, but there's no green buoy, yellow buoys. There's no sign warning. There's no sign. So I went directly onto the reef. And here is the ocean coming in. It's very close to the ocean over here. So the swell is coming into the bay. The big swell is coming into the bay. So because of swell coming in from the ocean, each wave pushes the boat more and more on top of the reef. So at the beginning, the boat was heeling just a little bit, but at the end, was like I was in 2 feet of water, basically. The boat was heeling about this much. So there's one French guy came with his dinghy, tried to heel the boat. His boat is not powerful enough. I was stuck. There are 2 Canadians, 2 Quebecers that came with, these guys had big catamarans. And on the catamarans, you have room to have a big dinghy with a big engine. So with these 2 guys, they came to help me, and we were getting somewhere. But pulling the boat back did not work because the keel was getting into the sand more and more and more. So that did not work. So I told the guy, flip the boat around. Let's turn the boat around so that we pull the boat from the bow to get out. So I decided to rotate the boat 180 degrees. So after some attempts, the boat is free. However, when we turn the boat around, we damage the keel. My boat is a centerboard boat. So the first section here is lead, where the centerboard is located, but the back end here of the keel is only fiberglass. It's not solid very much. Where it's solid, this part here, which is very solid. So by flipping the boat around, we broke this. Pulling the boat from the bow dips into the water, and it lifts the back of the boat, so it was easier to get out of the reef because it was being pulled from the bow rather than from the stern. So after my wife stayed with me in Pointe-à-Pitre, she stayed with me a week, but I kept the boat at the mooring bar. I did not do any sailing. And then I had a week off, and then my son came. He had also bought tickets to come. So we decided to keep the boat there, and we were visiting Guadeloupe without any sailing. But after, on the 14th of January, then I hauled out the boat, and that's when I started repairing the keel. I bought the fiberglass cloth and the epoxy resin and everything, the tools, and I fixed it myself. So that's the conclusion of the repair. The white is the fairing material. There's no anti-fouling paint on top of it yet, but this is the keel once it's repaired. So it took me 10 days to repair that. all the time I was in Guadeloupe, I was concerned about theft. And every day I was keeping my boat, my dinghy, out of the water and locked with a chain. But when I brought the boat to the yard to fix it, I decided to leave my dinghy in the water because that was my only means to go to shopping, to go places. That was my car. The second night, my dinghy was stolen. So they cut the chain. I lost everything. The dinghy, a brand new high-field dinghy with an 8 horsepower engine. The tank, my life jacket were in there. Everything was gone. So I reported to the gendarmerie, the police there. He says, "There's no way you're going to find that. There's no way. It's gone. It's gone." So no news, and I had no insurance for that. So that, my negligence, I should have taken the dinghy out of the water every night, bring it back to the boat where I was, and lock it at the boat, because in the water it was too easy. Cut the chain and go. It was too easy. I should have taken the dinghy out of the water every night. So what I did then, I bought a new one, a cheap one with a small engine, but still a very small dinghy, inflatable with a 3.5 horse, is 1,700 euros. That's like 2,500 Canadian about. But this time I always keep it out of the water. During my stay in the islands, I went to Martinique, and there is one place in the Martinique called La Baignoire de Joséphine. It's an area where the water is crystal clear. There is sand. You can walk in there, and a lot of people, lots of tourists go to. It's very popular, so I decided to go there. So I waited for the proper day to go there. So that's where I went. So this is the chart where the area. This is the Baignoire de Joséphine. But there's only one place to anchor. It's here. So you drop your anchor in about 10, 12 feet of water, but the boat itself is in 50 feet of water. It drops very quickly. So I spent the day there, well, the morning up till I had lunch, everything was fine. And then it came a squall from the north. So what happened is that the boat swing it was on the west, and then the boat swings to the south, basically, because the wind is coming from the north this time. But this time, I'm in 3 feet of water. So there again, I was aground, because of the wind. But using the windlass and my motor, I was able to get out of this area. But that is only to say that you think everything is fine. It's sunny day, everything is fine. Then comes a squall from nowhere. The wind switch around, and the boat ends up in aground. So this is, up to now, it's the last of my own problems. There is one more problem, one issue that has arrived to the people, some people that I met while I was there. They are Germans. They are my new German friends. So we cruised together. So we went to an island. It's called Union Island in St. Vincent in the Grenadine area. At 3 o'clock, I wake up and I see their boat broke loose from the mooring bar, and it stands on a reef. So I tried to help them with my dinghy to pull them out, but there's no way it won't work. So I weigh anchor and use my boat and with a spare anchor line, I attach to their mast, and I'm trying to heel their boat as much as possible. So I work hard on their boat to make it heel, and I tell them, put gas on the radio, put gas, and the boat could not move, stayed there. So the Coast Guard came and they said, we don't do anything with material. if the people are in danger, we will take care of the people, but not the boat. So for the boat, we have to call somebody else. So the Coast Guard called fishermen. So they came, the fishermen, they came, five boats. There were more than 5 boats, but 5 boats worked on my German friend's boat. 2 to heel it, 3 to pull. So you see, the mooring field is here. I was anchored behind the mooring field, and I saw their boat going directly to the reef there, because they broke loose from the mooring bar. So once they were freed by the fishermen, they found out that the max prop, the propeller, had split open. I guess that the prop was engaged into the rocks, came in contact with the rock and split open. So that's why when I was telling them, go forward, they were not going anywhere. They had no prop. The fishermen were asking $5,000 US for the service. That's a ripoff. They have these 2 guys, the man and the woman, they are like hostages. All the fishermen, they stand beside the boat with their boats, and they say, we're not moving until you pay. You're like hostages. Finally, they settled for $3,500 US. And then I told them, because in Union Island there are no marinas, no service, but 2 hours away is an island called Kariakou. So I towed them to Kariakou. They were asking $1,000 to tow them to Kariakou. I said, no, I'll tow you. That's no big deal. Why did they have this issue? Is because of this thing. They have a mooring bar, so they had a big line, a 3/4 inch diameter line running from one side of the boat to the eyelet of the mooring bar and to the other side. And when, after a few days, when the boat turns like this, there's chafing happen here, and the line broke loose. First of all, they should have had 2 lines, but they forgot. They forgot to install the second line. But the proper way to do it is to have 2 lines, but each line comes and ends, starts and ends on the same side, so that there's no chafing here. So if that's what I had done, they would not have had this problem. So I'm almost done. So as a conclusion, I would say be prepared. Murphy says that if something can happen, it will happen. Know your boat, have spare parts, and learn as much as possible before you depart. Learn weather, learn electricity, learn plumbing, learn what it... And was it worth it at the end? Yes, it was worth it. Because you have those magnificent falls in Dominica. On the ocean, there are sunsets. You can't beat that. Beaches, nice beaches. After a squall, there's always a rainbow somewhere. So it's worth it. It was worth it. So that's it. Any questions? Yeah. Yeah, it cost a lot. Just the repair for the boat is like, it costed me about 1,400 euros. That's about 2,000 something dollars just to fix the keel. And 2005 or so for the new dinghy. So if I had started my chop plotter, I would not have gone onto the reef. I would still have my dinghy, which I liked a lot, and I would haven't spent money on repairing the keel. So all to say that it's not all bad luck. A lot of it was negligence on my part. So my message to you is not to be don't take anything for granted.
I think a lot of it was the pandemic.
Just a second.
I think a lot of it was the pandemic when you couldn't use your boat for 2 years. That caused a lot of problems.
Yeah, what happened with the pandemic is that it delays everything. So I could not do my work at my pace and do my test and do my as I should have done.
Were you pushed by a schedule?
Yes, the departure date. When you leave New York to go to the Azores, you have to leave in June. July, August is too late. So I had to leave in June in New York City. For that, if you retro plan, if you retro schedule, it tells you that you have to leave by the end of May here. So I was on a schedule for the departure. After that, no. No, the departure from Beaufort to Saint Martin. Yes, I was on the schedule. I had to let the hurricane Nicole. I had to let Nicole go, and then I left behind Nicole. So I had to wait for Nicole to pass. So for that reason, I was on the schedule.
How many tours of St-Georges did you go through?
I think three tubes. Three. The big tubes. Yeah.
Your backstay problem. You mentioned you had a spare halyard, an extra halyard. So that halyard didn't go to the spinnaker or anything. It's just extra.
Extra.
You rigged that up before you went.
Yes. On my mast, there are 4 sheaves, the pulleys, 2 on the port side and 2 on the starboard side. So the 2 on the port side are used for the mainsail and the foresail. So the other 2 on this side are free. So the line goes in, the first one goes into the mast, goes out of the front, goes down. So I could do this with it. So it was long enough that I could take both ends and bring it to the backstay turnbuckle and then tighten it as much as I could and then twist it with my winch handle to make it tighter again, to make sure that the mast is not going to vibrate. But the fact that the mainsail was tight, the main sheet was also holding the mast, also.
So that's what prevented the whole thing from coming down.
Yeah, prevented the mast from going forward, yeah. It would have gone forward from the spreader.
So if you had been on bare poles, like when you dropped everything and you were heaving to on bare poles, it would have gone overboard. If that had happened when you were no sails.
Yeah, well.
Then you'd have the sheet and the topping left to the back of the boom,
Right.
and then pull the main sheet would have been protected. So now that is
So what I think broke the backstay eyelet is vibration, fatigue, metal fatigue, when you keep it vibrating. And that, I think, is because the bottom of the mast was not set properly and the mast was oscillating. Like it is a principle in physics called a resonant frequency. So this starts to resonate and then...
So did you see the fracture surface, Richard? Was it an existing crack or was it a clean?
It was like a sawtooth. Like a saw. It was cracked like a saw. The both ends fit like this. It was not like a cut as like a scissor cut. No, it was like a saw. Yeah.
Have you given up your idea of doing a transatlantic? Is that it? Or?
Well, to cross the ocean, yeah, because I'm 67. I'll be 68 by next summer, which would be the opportunity. But my boat right now is in Grenada, and I will sail my boat from Grenada all the way. Most probably, I will stop in Dominican Republic in a place called Luperon, which is a hurricane hole. I'll leave my boat there for next season, and then after that I'll bring it back most probably.
Are you still married?
Yes.
Are you still looking for crew?
No. No, I want no crew. I want no crew.
You're talking about cash. What did you do? Did you pay by Visa?
Yeah.
These people want cash.
Most of the time was Visa.
Or what?
Most of the time. Or you can always go to a local bank and get some currency. But even at the store, grocery store, is Visa, all the time.
So the fishermen pirates took Visa?
No, they took the captain with them on one of their boats to the bank, while the others were staying around his boat, waiting for the captain to come back. So he had to go to a bank. They waited for the bank to open, and he withdrew money from his bank account in Germany to give them.
Sure, what technique were you using for heating too?
What?
Your heating too, what technique were you using?
Well, basically when you heave to, you're sailing in one direction, and your sails are both on the same side, whether it's a starboard side. And what do? You turn around, and then when you turn around, the main flip side, but the foresail stays against, is on the wrong side. And then you turn the wheel, and you lock the wheel. So what happens is that the main sail takes the boat into the wind, but the foresail takes the boat down. So there's a fight. The main and the foresail, they fight. One wants to go like this. No, I want to go this way. I want to go, no. So there's a fight. So it's stable. And then the boat drifts. It starts drifting like that. So what happened is that the boat, as it drifts, it breaks the wave action. The wave which would spray on the boat, I guess, and we should say, the wave just calmed down. It's very, very calm. The boat, by drifting, calms down the wave. So the boat is more stable. You can do that easily with a long keel sailboat. That's easy. A medium keel like mine, it's a bit more difficult, but it's doable. But if you have a thin keel boat, it's very hard to heave to, because the boat swings too easily and does not produce the drift. What's the name for the slack? The slip, the movement of the water created by the boat that is drifting. It's like if the water was boiling. It's like the action of the water changes. That's what calms things down. So you can heave to for any reason. If you want to reduce sail, you are on the lake here. You want to reduce sail, you are alone. You heave to, you go, you make your changes, and then you turn around and you continue. You can heave to anytime. It doesn't have to be an emergency. You can heave to make you want to have lunch. You want to get something inside. For any reason, you can heave to. The advantage on the ocean is there is nobody around. Because the danger, I don't know if you noticed, the danger is not the water. The danger is the land, is the earth, the land. When you hit the bottom, when you hit the shore, the reef, that's where the danger resides. And the middle of the ocean, it's not dangerous to heave to. You can heave to all day, all week, all month. There's nobody around. So the danger is not in the ocean. The danger is in the coastal area. That's dangerous. Lake and everything.
Have you ever tried a sea anchor or a sea drove?
No.
Would that achieve the same objective?
it would not have helped me, no, because a sea stroke is when you have huge waves, like hurricane waves, and you cannot heave to because the wave is so big that the whale will will break. The wave will break onto the boat. So you need to sail. You need to go forward. So you go forward with the wave, but if you go too fast, you're going to broach. So you have to have a stopper. So the drogue keeps the boat in line with the wave. So it goes up and down. But that requires like 30 feet high waves, hurricane size. So that's not my game.
And you don't sail during that season?
No. That's why my boat is on the hard in Grenada, and I'm here. Because that's not the right time.
The boat in the Abbas? What's it cost to keep the boat?
Okay. In Grenada, it costed in US dollar $250 to haul out. $432 per month on land, plus another 47 for the straps. They call it blocking. To block the boat with straps, there's another $40-something, plus another $250 to launch. So in Canadian dollars, it's about 600 and something per month. Yeah. So the 5 months my boat will be there will cost me about 3,000 Canadian. So it's an expensive.
Same as in the Dominican Republic too, or is that cheaper?
No, in Le Perron it will be cheaper. Yeah, if you leave it, you can leave it on a mooring ball. It's $60 US a month, or if you take it out, it's $200 US a month. So it's about half price. Yeah. So I'll see what I do when I come back, if I stop there, or depends.
When you left your boat in the boatyard down south, did you strip all the electronics off of it?
No, everything is running. The battery's up, the solar panels are running. The only thing I turned off is the fridge. I turned off the fridge, but the rest is working. The solar, I keep the solar system working. I prefer to come back with and see something fail, rather than leaving and then it fails just as I left. I want to fix it before I leave. So
I was just concerned about the security in the islands.
Where my boat is, it's a fence marina, and there are security guards there all the time. And I have good recommendation. No. I think it's okay.
I'm wondering about this corrosion problem with salt air. How do you solve that?
You have to insulate. You have to put stuff to insulate to prevent the water or the air to reach the conductor. And for me, I was using Scaflex sealant to seal everything, to seal the wires, the connection, and the cover, and the entrance. And even sometimes water finds its way in.
Yeah. Because even when you're leaving it down there for 3 months, it's corroding the whole time unless it's protected.
Yeah. But right now, my boat is on the hard. It's about, I would say it's about 200 meters away from the ocean. It's more inland. So I don't think there is as much salty air at that location. Because in Grenada, it rains every day. The problem with the Caribbean is you cannot leave the door or the hatch open. It's sunny, you open up, then it rains, you close. Then it's sunny, you open up. You play that game all day long.
That's the problem. Wet, dry.
Yeah. So when it just rained, you open up, but it's so humid, it's so hot and humid, you sweat like crazy. And then the rain comes, and then you have to close again. And so there's no chance to dry. It doesn't have a chance to dry It rains all the time. So that's it. Thank you. Thank you very much for.
Just like to take a moment to acknowledge some of the people that helped out tonight. I'd like to thank District Commander Richard and his wife Noreen for putting together a beautiful nice food table there. I'd like to thank Norman Pearl for being the technical producer tonight. I hope the thing went out. If nobody got this, if it didn't work out online, we're going to produce a recording and we'll post it up and let everybody know so you can watch it in a recording. Okay? We'd like to thank the Beaconsfield Yacht Club for hosting us and Olivia, right? Bartender in this, for having George Craigie, who made West Island Squadron Commander, who couldn't be here, who's made the arrangements for us to use this facility. And of course, thanks to Richard for his knowledge. When is that boating maintenance and repair course starting that you're going to be?